Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolebarger. Welcome to this week's Holy Ground Exploration KFIR Middle East Update. Reminder right off the bat, go to our website holygroundexplorations.com and access the PowerPoint that accompanies this video presentation. It's the week of July 28th and I have to say it, what a week. Not in a good way, but what a week. And we must, as believers, pay attention to what's going on in the world today. So what's taken place? Well, quickly, and again, I can't say it enough, go to the website, get this information. But as you know, a few weeks back there was 2 Druze policemen at the Lion's Gate that were killed, shot to death. Weapons had been smuggled onto the Temple Mount. The assailants came off the Temple Mount, shot. The 2 soldiers retreated back onto the Mount. Israelis responded, took them out, and that's the first domino that fell. Temple Mount closed down. One thing leads to another, we've got metal detectors that have gone in. We've got security cameras intensified or whatever, and it's a boiling pot. That's just a kettle that's boiling over. So besides that, then last Shabbat, hours before what the tragic terrorist attack in Samaria, Fatah encouraged Palestinians to, quote, rage, called for escalation and glorified death. And so what took place that evening is a 19-year-old Palestinian knocked on the door of a family in Samaria, and as the door was opened, he killed, knifed to death, brutally murdered 3. And it's going to continue to go on. Then there's more rioting that's taken place on the Temple Mount, and then it's escalating, and then we have an incident that takes place in Jordan, and we've got Jordanians that are wanting to tear up the peace process or the peace treaty that they've had with Israel. And so, and what does it all center around? It all centers around Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. And then we've got the church. Not exactly sure what to say about this, but we have the World Council of Churches siding with the Palestinians. We've got the Catholic Diocese in Jerusalem siding with the Palestinians. And so things continue to ramp up. It appears that Israel has backed down, that they've removed the metal detectors. Of course, Palestinians are claiming amazing victory, standing up to Israel, and in the midst of it all, one has to wonder, or actually, you must know that this is far from being over. And there's been no condemnation from the Palestinians concerning the brutal murder of this family. In fact, just the opposite. The Palestinian terrorists who brutally murdered the 3 members of the Solomon family will highly benefit from the PA's, quote, pay for slay program. As a result of what's taken place, the pay for slay program will give his family, and they're expected to start receiving a monthly lifetime salary of $3,120 a month. Now, let me give you an idea, just as a comparison, that the average Palestinian engineer earns about $1,300 per month. So when there are calls for rage to take place, it's beneficial. It's more than twice as much that's given for Palestinians to seek out Jews, even innocent Jews in the settlement, 60-year-old, 36-year-old mom, to kill them brutally. And so don't kid yourself, this is going to continue. Palestinians and Arabs are declaring victory because of the reverse security measures, but they're not going to stop, because when it's the mindset. When Israel backed away from the metal detectors, it was seen as a sign of weakness. And so I'm reading different reports saying, why should we stop with the Temple Mount? Next up will be the Muslims' claim for the al-Burqa wall. We know it as the Western Wall, which Muslims demand to be returned to their sovereignty. They believe this is the site where Muhammad tied his horse up before his so-called night journey. And you might say, oh, that will never happen. Really? Where there's perceived weakness, there's not going to be compromise. It's going to be a full-on assault. I mentioned, I'm just going to mention now, because of time, different articles that I hope you take the time to read. I mentioned the Catholic Church diocese in Jerusalem. Troubling to see what their comments were. I mentioned the fact that there's been no condemnation. It's consistent with the Palestinian authorities' behavior throughout last year's terror wave, that there's been no condemnation of this event in which 3 Israelis were killed. In fact, just the opposite, and this is the crazy maker. It reveals the hypocrisy of a boss when he comes out and actually makes the statement, we, the state of Palestine, are convinced that terrorism must be fought everywhere. And we have at least 83 protocols with various countries around the world to combat violence and terrorism. They have ignored this attack. And no, take that back. They have glorified this attack. It is absolutely difficult to comprehend the craziness that's taken place in our world today. I want to mention one other thing, and there's a survey. Some are looking at Netanyahu as a sign of weakness. I think he slid a bit to the right, because during a condolence call to the Solomon family, Netanyahu has come out to say it is time for the death penalty to be given for terrorists. We'll see. 77% of Israelis, 77% are opposed or were opposed to the removing of the Temple Mount metal detectors. And not only did the Palestinians decline to condemn last Friday's terrorist attack, their official, the UN headquarters, the UN ambassador from Palestine, Riyad Mansour, as I mentioned, didn't condemn the event. He went on to actually say that when you have an occupation like Israel that is so ruthless, don't expect Palestinians to be angels and not to react to shutting down the Temple Mount because of metal detectors. Do you know that there are metal detectors? If you want to go to the Western Wall to pray, guess what you're going to go through? Metal detectors. If you go to the Vatican, guess what you're going to go through? Metal detectors. If for some reason you wanted to go to Mecca, guess what you're going to go through? Metal detectors. But God forbid putting metal detectors on the Temple Mount where weapons are proven to be hidden. Is it crazy or is it me? Lastly, and this goes under the category of unbelievable, but I have to end with it. PA, Palestinian Authority TV, presents this murderer who slaughtered the 3 family members as, quote, compassionate. I'm going to read the article. He could have killed the kids too, but he refused to harm them. The PL member calls the murderer who stabbed the 3 to death a hero. The murderer was, quote, merciful because he didn't kill the children official PA daily presenters go on to say that he could have killed the wife. However, he preferred not to do so because she was holding two of her children in her arms, and thus he proved the morals of the Palestinians even in war. Unfreaking believable. Hero. Because he only stabbed it, and you know, look at the pictures. It's a bloody mess. It's the world in which we're living. It grieves me to see those that would call themselves Christians, believers. Two things. Either choosing not to want to, quote, be involved, to understand truly what is going on and to take a stand. Or the opposite is to see how many of those that go by the name Christian today are casting their vote. As we've mentioned over the past few weeks, Mennonites, United Members of the Church of Christ, over 1 million. Now we have the World Council of Churches, as well as the Catholic Church coming out. And friends, they're casting their vote for Islam. For Zion's sake, let's not remain silent. Let's stand on the walls and proclaim our allegiance and our support for Israel. Let's be part of the restoration and reconciliation of Israel. Let's pray that they open their eyes to receive their Messiah. Not stopping there. Please understand my heart. I believe that this is a clash of cultures. Religion of death and those that choose life. Those that are a part of this religion of death are imprisoned, and Jesus came to set the captives free. So fling open the gates and bring out the captives. This is a matter of intense prayer for all believers. That's our report for this week. God bless you all, and remember, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.